ToyLeet Assembly. Step up and see flashes the ToyLeet crew. We're the kings of the game, yeah, the chosen few. From the shadows we rise with the rarest finds. Collect them, respect them, we're one of a kind. ToyLeet, ready the streets, elite with the feats in this collectible feast. ToyLeet, never the street, when the heart of the beat, where all play makes me. Check our stacks, our collection supreme. Limited editions, every collector's dream. We're the myths, we're the legends, with every drop. Taking over the block, we never stop. In the alleys where the echoes play, ToyLeet's the name, hear what we say. Rising, thriving, always vibing. In our realm we're always diving. ToyLeet, bring the street, the lift ToyLeet, setting the pace. With a snap on the case and a click of the lock, ToyLeet's on top and we're ready to rock. Collecting more than just toys, we're up. We're up. We're up. ToyLeet, never the street, when the heart of the beat, where all blame makes me. We're the tree, we're the ToyLeet, what's the flow? Cause in this zone, we never admit defeat. Come for the thrill, skate for the chase. ToyLeet's in the place, set in the pace.
Holy shit, what is this?
What's up, dude? Two dudes in one place together, man.
Yeah, dude, it seems like forever since we've been here.
I feel like it has been hectic, and if we didn't stick to this, I was ready to hold off this week, but I wanted to try to stay consistent, and consistently inconsistent isn't always the solution, as they say.
Oh, we do well at it though. What the hell?
We try, right? Hey, that's what it is, right? We got to do the best we can with what we got.
We like to keep things fresh, right? Throw a Wednesday show out there once in a while, and just skip a week when we want to.
Yep,
we roll like that.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? Like we did a Wednesday randomly, and to try to make sure we fit it in, and then this week it's
get your mind out the gutter, punk.
It's back to Tuesdays, and next week we'll be here again. I know we got a lot of big stuff coming up here soon with some plans we've discussed and whatnot, which is cool. So, but before we do that, we should probably I think there's this thing like where you introduce yourselves for those that know and those that don't. So
those that know and those that don't.
He's at Akxion Figs. I got that right this time without even trying, and it's been like wicked long.
Yeah, and that over there on the other side of the wall is Travis, aka D, Mr. Wonderful, right over there. And together we have formed joint superpowers and formed what we like to call the ToyLeet.
The ToyLeet, brother. Absolutely. And, for those that aren't familiar, right, this is a toy talk channel. We talk toys and, or let's take a step back. We're adults, right? It's not toys. These are action figures, my man. So we talk action figures, plastic passion, and we like to get together and talk about something we enjoy. We do this on a weekly basis most of the time.
As we said,
exactly.
Consistently inconsistent.
And we try to get together. We like to do some things like focus on independent toy lines, right? There's a ton of mainstream toys out there, ton of mainstream products that you can get that information over from our buddies over like Punk with Friends, Unboxing Art. Each week they both are two
Punk
guys.
Doesn't have any friends. You mean Punk with Toys? Those are his only friends.
Yeah. A Punk with Toys, Punk with Friends, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. So you can get your mainstream, Mattel and Hasbro and such, updates on their toys. We really focus on the independent toy lines and things like that. As it's a large part of my collections activity in the more recent years, and much like yourself. There's a lot of stuff coming up through the Kickstarter methods, the independent toy lines. There's a lot of folks that have gone Kickstarter method and now are publishing or producing products, without that individual backer model. So it's really cool to see and really kind of stay at the forefront. Plus, a lot of these guys that are in the independent toy community that are producing these items are part of the independent toy community and appear on our shows, other friends of our shows, and things like that. So really like to support ourselves and those around us. So it's really where we spend most of our time. We'll talk about those toy lines. We'll talk about that in the weekly news. We talk about, going throwback to the original conception of this show. Shout out from the Crick, where, every week we like to shout someone out from the community that's just doing really cool things, positive person in the community. Maybe they got a really cool idea, a cool show. Maybe there's somebody who just messages people on the side and chats with them and is just a positive influence in the community, or the brotherhood as we refer to it. And then we also have the ToyLeet or Toilet, which is where we rank or review a toy. Not your traditional toy review. There's, again, plenty of YouTubers out there that do that. We don't get a ton into the toy review channel stuff, but we do take a look at the plastic that we keep, and we determine whether or not it's ToyLeet, meaning it goes up on the shelf, or whether it gets the flusher button and goes down the toilet if that piece of plastic can fit. That's what we like to focus our attention on. And then we always focus in on a topic of the week. We try to take something that's a little different from what others are talking about potentially. In the past, we've done things like, bringing back our top favorite toy lines, what we really like to see brought to life, things like that. This week specifically, we'll be talking about, celebrity figures and the impact of pop culture on toy lines. So that's one of the topics. We'll talk a little about that more later. Ed, what's the chat talking about tonight?
What's the chat talking about? Well, nice to have him back on top. Row Keeper is first, like it's supposed to be. What's up, Row Keeper? And then there's this guy. Why does this show always make me wait?
Comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
We make you wait, Lawrence, just so your ego doesn't get too big, because it's only for you.
What's up, brother?
Like to make you fashionably late. And we have the beautiful Cobweb joining us. What's up, Cobb? Hello, peoples. And we are officially official with Nolan in the house. What's up, Ed, Travis in the chat? And that is it for now. Everybody else, Cobb and Punk, both have their minds in the gutter. Two dudes, one mug. And we have a new jumper in here. K-Roll is in the house. What's up, K-Roll? How you been, brother?
Busy, brother. It's the time of the year where the kids go back to school. Coming back from that vacation a few weeks ago, and then just trying to get back into the grind of everything, and the 9 to 5 crushing me. Just very busy covering for folks that have PTO and stuff themselves, playing catch up, and getting pulled in 100 different directions. All over the state and all over the country to support other
initiatives. It
initiatives.
just comes a little at a time, right? It's either all or nothing.
That's exactly how it works, right? So just juggling that. The best of my ability. It's been a hectic day. You think you got some time to get a few things done, and then your daughter tells you she forgets her cheer shoes at home, and you need to drive back and forth to the high school 5 times a day to get her cheer shoes so she can compete and do her cheer stuff. So
I love those days. Dad, I forgot to take that. How could you forget that? It's the most important thing. A couple hours later, Dad, I forgot this. Damn it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, man. But otherwise, it's good, man. Things are good.
At one point in time, I remember there's one point in time because Luke was like 2 years behind Isabel, his older sister. And then he's got our oldest. So all 3 of the kids were in 3 different schools because our school here goes 9th to 12th, 5th through 8th, and then kindergarten through 4th grade. So they're all in different schools, and they're all, a few, not really far apart, but far apart enough that if you have to go to each one, it's a real pain in the ass.
Yep.
Especially if you go to one and then have to go back to the beginning and all the way over. It's like, oh my God.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you can make a full-time job just that'll be in the transport for your kids if they're at different schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Sports, activities, but yeah.
Yeah, we got Brick something in the house. What's up, Brick?
What's up, man? Another independent toy individual.
Yeah.
I've got a toy with his name on it now.
Outside of that, I've been busy and working and shit like that, and damn, it's like every time I feel the same as you, man. Every time I feel like I'm gonna have 5 minutes, it's like I either end up closing my eyes and fall asleep for an hour and a half, or else I'm freaking moving my ass somewhere. It's like,
You
holy
said
shit.
sleep, and it just made me massively tired, man. Like that's what happened. That's what happened, dude. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good, man. Have you picked anything up in the last week or two?
Oh, I haven't gotten anything in. I have a nice package from the boys over at My Hella Dope
Okay.
coming in. It's a day late, not entirely their fault, because the post office decided to pick it up when it decided to pick it up and not pick it up when it was supposed to. So
Gotcha.
it's all good though. Some of it is for a project I'm working on, and then I also got my Mafex Batman that I pre-ordered I want to say I pre-ordered that last July, maybe
Okay.
August. So, it's nice. I usually pay my pre-orders in full through Hella Dope, so then I ain't got to worry about it. They just ship it and don't have to.
That's the way to do it, man. Pay
think
for it
about
when
it.
you
So,
got it and move on.
yeah.
But what they offer over there at Hella Dope is the benefit of only being having to put a little deposit down on.
Yeah,
on
that
things
too, right?
And
So there are a
makes
couple
it
things that I have on pre-order that I just put the dollar down, but when the time comes, I'll figure that out. But usually I like to pay in full. That way it's all done and I don't have to worry about it. So
That's awesome.
we got another newcomer in the show tonight, Christine Mendoza. Hi, Christine. How are you today?
Thank you.
And so yeah, I got that coming in, and then a couple other cool little things coming in. So working on a little project. So
Sweet. Looking forward to it. I know you got some stuff you're gonna be sending me my way at some point when I finally get you my information, and
yeah,
and I got some stuff to send back to you from some boxes I've been sitting on for a bit. So we gotta do some swapsies here soon. Good deal. I myself did get a couple things, and it actually all kind of came in the last couple days, I think. I'm trying to look around the room and think, is there anything that I'm missing that I didn't speak to yet? I don't think that I did in that sense. I did get this, which again, I think we spoke to this, right? We do toy adjacent, plastic adjacent, and I have this, which for me is kind of cool. I like this stuff. It's a comic book, graphic novel. It's hard to see. Oh, there we go. Cool. Little cool cover image here.
Oh, nice.
I have not read it yet. It's the 8-bit slasher. It's created by Mike Spring, who's actually local to my area. I've seen him at a number of comic book shows that we have here.
Is it a all black and white like that?
I don't know if the one I got was all black and white. To be honest, I backed his Kickstarter back on, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look when the campaign started. But I backed some of his other stuff. He's got some cool stuff, red, white, and blue or something. No, it's a color.
All right, so it's just a cover
it's just a cover. I got a unique cover, and I picked the cover that I wanted with his autograph on and stuff. But like the artwork is fantastic. Like I've seen his art elsewhere and stuff. He does really a great job. But again, he's one of the 2 or 3 local comic book artists and producers that in the area that I personally have connected with and met with. He actually, believe it or not, was on a call with Todd McFarlane yesterday, and he was advertising on his social media. So this came in the mail yesterday, and I saw that post, which I was like, that's cool. I need to make contact with you and find out how I get Todd's number and bring him onto this rinky-dink show of ours, and we can talk about
how much else better to do.
His toys.
I mean,
but
with a couple of New Yorkers, it'd be all good.
Exactly. So I did get that, and then I did get a shipment in from the boys over at Hella Dope the other day.
Oh, you got the wrestlers.
Yes, got my ultimate Gunther. I have not opened it yet, but he will absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt,
Hold that figure up again. I gotta see this. Hold on. Wow, they did a good job with that body.
Yeah, their ultimate figures are like really good.
Yeah.
He's got the new model. He's got the newer model. I have not collected the current model Intercontinental title strap that they have in there. So this is the first time I've got that one. Which I'm not a huge fan of that style, but the fact that they have it so it's true to what he held,
yeah,
cool. Again, I haven't opened it yet. I'm sure I'll be happy with it. He doesn't have any tattoos and stuff, so they can't mess that up. And from the head scans and stuff that I've seen, they look really good.
Gunther's not really like, he's not a super like built guy, you know, so there's not a lot of muscle definition.
He was a fat guy.
Right.
He was massively fat.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's got the short hair and all that stuff, right? So I mean, they don't have a lot there to screw up. But like, from what I know of Gunther and what I see of that the way his body is designed, he did a good job on capturing that.
They did an absolutely fantastic job for him. You know, leveraging whatever mold they used for him. And I mean, his story is really interesting because, again, he's from over in Europe there. And, you know, he actually, you know, he was a big fat guy, like, being completely honest. He was a big boy, and he ended up cutting down quite a bit of weight and is very lean. And if you see his before WWE to even when he was in their development system to when he made it to the main TV and even progressed on there, the dude has just, and it's not like that Ultimate Warrior bulk. It is like, you can tell he's eating, he's working and putting in the work. And they did a great job with the figure. And he just won the world title. And last night he this is why I know this toy, even before I open it, he's going to be a ToyLeet figure. It's because during his interview, he did me a favor. And he had an interview confrontation with Bret the Hitman Hart last night. And he clearly told Bret, and I know this is wrestling talk, so I do apologize for those non-wrestling fans, but he said, "Hey, Bret, you're one of my second favorite. You're like my second favorite wrestler." He said he's his second favorite. And then he says to Bill Goldberg. And that was hysterical because he was in Canada. Bill Goldberg injured Bret Hart in the 90s, made it so he couldn't wrestle anymore.
Yeah,
so,
Hart hasn't let that go ever.
Exactly. So for me, as a fan of that whole thing, it definitely was a win in my book.
Somebody in Punk's chat last night goes, "I'm surprised you didn't cancel this. The Hitman's on Monday Night Raw." And Punk's like, "What the hell do I care?"
If Punk had seen what Gunther said about Bret, which I'll have to send him a link for it, I think he'll appreciate it for sure. It was definitely good. And
too funny.
I did have something else. I didn't get that this week.
God, if you have a weak stomach, you may stop right here. Anybody hungry?
So on tonight's ToyLeet, I have this figure. This figure is from an independent toy line. It is not one that I recently received in the last week or two. I actually got this figure, who is the Akxion figure by the Spiro Toys for the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Wave 4, as part of the Gladiator wave that they talk about. So there's a Gladiator trio, there's a Gladiator Pale, and then there's the horrid mongrel jackal or whatever it is, like a wolf figure. And they have I was able to get this at what is that convention called there? Zolocon.
Yeah.
So I was able to get this from Zolocon, and I'm really happy with this figure. It's the first one that I have. I think it's the first one of the Akxion figure paint. I love that he's got the double shoulder pads, still same look and feel. I know I can give this to my son and he can play with it at the beach because he did, and because Spiro Toys does a fantastic job with their figures, making them feel like your kids can play with them, and you don't have to worry about them breaking them. They're not ultra sensitive. I love the artwork. I love the print down to the, on the head and the body, to give it kind of that, leopard, print or whatever.
Hey, hold that back up again.
ToyLeet.
Hold that back up again.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, I want to see the back. Oh, that's cool. I like that tuft of hair they put up at the top this time.
Yeah, so that's cool too. Like, it's another layer that makes the mold a little bit different than the other ones. So it's a little bit heftier and whatnot back there.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. No, this figure's cool. I'm really happy with it. So I got this one at Zolocon. I know on Brick's show, not Brick's, Articulated, Highly Articulated, and Brick and Jason were all on Sunday night, and I listened to parts of their show, and I know there's some updates coming for the Wave 4 items that have been pre-ordered. I just happened to see them at the convention and made sure that I grabbed what I could get in my hand, which at the time, unfortunately, I couldn't get the mongrel So it's the only one from that wave that I couldn't get, which I was disappointed with. But the Gladiator Pale, I'm not normally someone who will purchase a second version of a figure, especially one that is not so different that that I feel the need to get.
Yeah, they took his mohawk off though, didn't they? Or like
Um,
laid it down, slicked it back or something for that.
yeah,
Gladiator?
no, I'd have to double check it, but it's slightly. I'd have to compare it to the original, and I don't have them both with me right now. I think
Yeah.
somewhere in the basement. So I can't completely confirm that. I'm sure Brick could. And I'm going to look. No, I'm looking at the original one. No, the mohawk's the same style.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it looks like the same mold, but the paint on him and everything looks good. It might be slightly different. It's hard to tell in the pictures. Maybe it's very similar. It's not so different that you notice it, but the Akin one it's a cool figure. I don't think I've seen him in the stories yet. I may have missed that. I may need to
I
go
don't
back
think
and-
any. I haven't seen any of the well, I can't say I haven't seen any of them. I haven't really been looking, but the Gladiators, I don't think I've seen them.
There is a touch of a trio and Pale in at least one of the comics from what I saw, if I remember. It's at least alluded to, or maybe I'm mixing that up with just seeing the toys be announced. But they always have a sale. There's a sale on their website for pre-ordering them right now. You can get 3 of them for under $100 directly.
Does
through
Spiro Toys still do their Wednesday discount?
Wednesday AWOC Wednesday.
AWOC Wednesdays.
Yeah, they do. Every Wednesday there's an announcement. You get your sales or whatever, but then you also get the benefit of the updates to the Kickstarter. Sorry, trying to think of the term. Yes, you get your updates on that. Last week we saw some pictures of one of the birds. I'm not going to try to remember the name. I'm not good with names in that sense. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I definitely ToyLeet that one. Is there anything in the chat we need to bring up, sir?
Yeah, let's. Nolan said he got his Tigra in yesterday, and a movie Skeletor came in today. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Those are good pickups.
Tigra's that's the one from Forsetta, right?
Yeah, that's the dark wolf. Well, the girl from that.
Yeah.
Same.
I didn't get that one. I didn't get that one. That one I wasn't sold on the articulation and cost for my
Yeah,
my
I
purchase.
didn't order either. I didn't get the Dark Wolf either, but I did order the
I got Dark Wolf.
Horseman. So
if you had that Dark Wolf, you'd be really happy right now.
yeah,
Because him and Conan could be back to back taking down some lizards.
That's why I ended up getting the Norseman, and then I realized they re-released the Dark Wolf. So I'm gonna.
They did re-release like a slightly modified version, I believe.
Then the Briscoe 1234 is in the house. What's up, Briscoe? And Matthew Matson is here. He got a new Leet Roddy Piper, the old head on him with a custom Iron Grenadier shirt. Now he sits in Destro's army, leather jacket and all. That's awesome.
Oh, I didn't get that one. I didn't get that.
Punk would like to know, was he a big fat guy? You haven't mentioned it.
He wasn't a short fat guy. Don't worry, Punk.
Yeah. And then Brickster is saying,
and to be clear on that, the reason I point that out is because the transformation is an extremely commendable and respectful transformation for him. So I'm not dogging the dude. I'm impressed with what he did.
Sparrow kids are clever.
Yeah,
they're in the store. Missed what you were talking about. Yep.
Just going back to Brick's comment there, he is right. The Spiro kids are pretty clever. And I would suggest folks look at the bottom of the packaging and the back of the packaging. There's some names on there. Yeah. So there's definitely some shout outs to some folks who are now working for Spiro and supporting the independent toy lines. My name's not there. They don't love me enough yet. So maybe someday I'll find a way to work for it.
Spend a couple $100 more grand, you'll be all set.
Yeah, I should that should be it. I have a better chance to get my name on something with Hella Dope's name on it at this point.
Yeah. Joe G sent Matthew Mythic Legion Skeleton Army Builder 2. And Hella Dope got him a secret figure for a surprise coming up soon and some custom trees. My Stinger arrived. Good week. Nice. You didn't get the custom trees from Hella Dope, so the way you put that sentence, Matthew, is incorrect. Just so you know. I just want to point that out. I'm just harassing Matthew because that's just what he likes to do to everybody else. So, moving on. We have news. Do you have news?
No. So first thing.
We got the shout out. Let's do a shout out.
let's go over to the screen here. I don't think I'm presenting yet, so give me 1 second. So, there
We
it is.
apologize, guys. It's been a rough couple weeks for us, so we're just flying by the seat of our pants. But
Yeah.
bear with us. We'll get back.
We'll get there, right?
Yeah.
So going back, right? So this week, the main topic, I've been busy as all heck, guys, so do apologize. I did not have the opportunity to go ahead and create and craft one of our cool videos. It's a hard thing to take the drums back out and the guitar, the microphone, and really strum up some custom song and then put a whole slide deck together for it. So unfortunately, I don't have one this week, but we do have the celebrity figures topic and the impact on pop culture. The impact of pop culture on toy lines, right? So this is really kind of talking about, how celebrity action figures are more than just toys. They're essentially symbols of a cultural moment, and kind of crosses the bridge from real world fame into what we would consider collectible play or collections and such. We're going to talk a little bit about the rise of celebrity figures, and how that helped merge the toy world with pop culture, making it a bit easier for fans to bring some of their favorite icons home. Pee Wee Herman, things like that. We'll talk more about that. But that's going to be the main subject tonight for the main topic that we like to spend a little bit of time on. From there, though, we are going to go ahead and
down by the creek where the water flows, we're shouting out to those who know. Spreading joy, sharing love, ToyLeet fam, you rise above. Shout out from the creek, you're the best. Hype up the heroes who've passed the test. Young unity stars shining bright, lifting each other, it feels so right.
man, I could just jam out to that song, man.
I love that song. It is
Yeah.
it makes you smile.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Like, it brings the moment, right? Like, for sure, right there. So for this week's shout out from the crick, I'm gonna pass it over to you, Ed.
And the shout out from the crick this week is Ted Darklaw from Hella Dope Toys. First of all, let me just say this is no dig on the Black Knight Aaron. This is just shouting out Ted because Ted's got some, he's the guy that you see a lot more often in the chats and always hanging out with people and stuff like that. So, Ted and Aaron do the show on Sunday nights at 9:00 Eastern time. And Ted is usually in everybody's chat as himself and as Hella Dope Toys. And sometimes you'll see Black Knight do that also. But Ted does a lot of cool stuff over on the Hella Dope show with Moss Man and all his other antics that he gets up to. And you can also check him out on his personal Instagram page, which is just Ted Darklaw, which is less toys, more. There is some toy stuff over there, but more of his personal collection and personal vibe. So
Yeah, and that's why when I was contemplating which image and links to put up here, we could have pointed him towards the Ted Darklaw thing, but let's promote Hella Dope Toys and what his main focus is right now. So that's the reason for those.
Yep.
And you can see him hidden behind some, believe it or not, action figures. And actually, one of the photos that I saw while they were doing that last toy show they did in Columbus, which is why I was like, oh, they have Gunther in stock. I need to order that. So that's why I went right over and got it. So that's where I got it, and it's probably one of those ones that hung on the peg there at that toy show. So that said, just to add a little bit of context here, right? So when we bounce around who we want to put on the shadow from the creek, we always look at someone who's doing some cool stuff, being positive, bringing out the best, championing each other, doing something right. And it was easy. I was like, hey, do you have anybody in mind? And you were like, I was like, because I do, I want to throw this out to Ted. And it just so happened that Ted, he reached out to me out of the blue. Obviously, last several weeks or so, I've been pretty hectic, and I might not have been in as many chats in different U shows, and I might not have been on the clubhouse or stepping in for here and there. Not even as many of Punk shows the last few weeks, trying to catch things on Rewind like Brick and highly articulated shows and such, and just things have been just very hectic. And he took a few minutes out to write me up, but hey, you check on me, I just want to check on you. Everything good? And that really struck a chord with me. And I was like, dude, like, thank you. Like, everything's good. There was nothing wrong. Just busy as all heck, right? So just him taking that.
Hey, sometimes, you know, you and I do it all the time, right? We'll just bounce each other. Hey, man, you doing all right? Because I haven't heard from you in a couple of days.
And that's exactly what it was, man. It was just out of the blue. Hey, dude, everything good on your end? And I just appreciated the heck out of it. Again, all things are good on my front, just busy, just pushing through and stuff. And he just a little tap on the shoulder check, and I appreciated the hell out of it. So I just wanted to shout out at him for being a good dude in the community and brotherhood and taking care of one another. So that's Ted, great. All the best to you, brother. And thank you for what you do for myself and for everybody else around. And keep on going, dude. Anyone looking for toys, go get them from Hello Dope Toys. And if they don't have them on the site, message them. Be a pain in the ass. Ask them to get it in stock and order it for you. That's what I did when I wanted my Matt Cardona Super 7 figure. So,
if you guys like the new site layout with this new and in stock thing on the main page, makes it nice and easy. Tell Ted and Aaron, because I keep trying to tell them to leave it, and they keep saying they want to take it down.
Good deal. Yeah. So that's what we got for the shout out.
It's not a fair vote over there, I'll tell you.
You know, normally from here, Ted, we would go into the weekly news.
Yeah.
But we've been busy as all hell. So
there are a few things. Let's
well, I was gonna say that, we're gonna go over some news items. We're definitely gonna cover on those.
I just want to say what's up to Skunk Works, because he's probably not gonna stick around for too long. But what's up, Jeff?
Shout out.
See ya. And why? What the hell?
He's saying one of his mods, I'm assuming Eminem, or as I refer to
him, you know, Poppin' Matthew went and got their commercial done. And
you know. I'm assuming he's talking about Maddie Madison, as I refer to him. I kid,
Madison.
Matthew.
Madison.
I kid. I'm assuming that they got them
you gotta be careful. He's like a 800th degree black belt in 7 different, you know, forms of martial arts.
Oh, I was dead before I thought about what I was going to say about him. So, we just lost 2 viewers. Thanks a lot, Matthew. Yeah. No,
he's also like a chiropractor and stuff, so he could always put you back together after he kicks.
I could use that. You know? I could absolutely use that. No, so I did want to cover on a couple things. Slides together. Was there anything else in the?
That's it for the chat.
Cool. So there was a couple news items I want to talk about. I didn't have time to put the slides together. Some that touch close to home, right? There's, for those that are located or making trips to the New York area, there is a thing called the Strong Museum, which is known collectively as the Museum of Play. Yes. It's a place that I hold near and dear. I've taken my children out to it a couple times. It's a cool place to go. When I was in a rough spot last year, and just kind of down in the dumps for a minute, you know, I took a weekend break to kind of shut down and spend some time with the family and re-energize, right, and get my mind moving and stuff. I actually went out there and spent the weekend checking things out, and you know, you get to see the Toy Hall of Fame, all that stuff. But one of the things they recently announced was a new exhibit that they opened up, or I think it's it's opening on September 21st, so in just a few weeks. I won't unfortunately have the opportunity to get out there anytime soon, but I do want to make a trip out and check it out. They have the a Dungeons and Dragons exhibit opening, which I think will be really cool. There's a bunch of different things around it, but Dungeons and Dragons has kind of had a resurgence. I mean, it's always been around and hung around. Yeah. But you know, with Stranger Things and a number of other instances of folks like I don't know the guy's names, but I think it's the Carvel guy. I think he's a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, or a Warhammer and different things like that. So there's been a number of celebrities that have poked a lot of attention in the recent years to Dungeons and Dragons, and it's getting some additional recognition at the Strong Museum, which is kind of cool. So if you're ever out that way, go check that out. I'm sure it'll be a great exhibit while they have that. I don't know the length in which they plan to have it there, but definitely something I want to check out. So
real quick, Matthew, I know you're not a chiropractor. I couldn't think of the right word, so that was the first thing that came to mind. So I'd like to officially apologize to you, so you don't kick my ass.
Cobb hit it on the head, though. I think Cobb smashed this one. Cobb, I love that. That might be a Hall of Fame comment from this stream. So, additionally, there's there were some updates to the Patriot Force. They even showed something most recently today. I want to do a little bit more diving into that before I dig too deep into that, as you and I were talking on the side there, Ed. But they had some cool stuff for another one of their unofficial mock-ups of a gentleman named Chad Robochicks action figure that they'll have on their Kickstarter. And more recently, one of the things I saw them show was a very modular weapon system for the weapons, which if that's the way it comes out, that's going to be awesome and pretty badass. I'm very impressed by that. There's also some updated photography and images of Memory Toys. They've been putting some of that mythic looking stuff out there, quite a bit of items there, which again, that fits right into the world I want to play. Ramen Toys has been showing off some additional updates. The Creative Beast Studios also had a few updates recently, including some 1/18th. I don't know what it's called. It's like a Morathenium. It's a horrible spelling, that's for sure, or a horrible pronunciation on my part, not spelling. And then they have the what are those? That Kickstarter that we're following there, Ed. The 1/18th. Go Native Toys.
Yes, Go Native Toys. The dwarfs, the beards.
Yeah. So those I know they're working on. Those I don't know where they at. I know they weren't really. They were kind of doing the Brutal Realms approach early on, where there wasn't a lot of push behind it.
Yeah. Speaking of Brutal Realm, they put up some new 3D renders for the ape, the werewolf, and the panther on that other store over. That's like the big bad store has pictures of those up.
And just to speak back one step, the Beards of Dragon Kingdoms, they're about $9,000, so they're about 10% of the way there. So,
what do they have for total?
Just under 100,000 is what they have
so
for
they're not
their
doing
target.
much.
Yeah. So they got a ways to go, but Brutal Realms definitely provided quite a bit of updates. I know earlier this week or late last week they presented some photos with their, what would we call it? Not their throwback, but their what's the word when you do something kind of like in name of, they did it for the Skull Man for
the homage.
I'm sorry, thank you. The homage. They did that homage for Skeletor. They were showing that awesome photos of like a printed figure with some fabric capes and stuff, which looked really cool. And then there was some recent updates around the Meta Travelers also. So I think that's the Legendary figures.
Yep.
And there was some cool pictures that had been posed online. So check them out on Instagram. But they showed a bunch of additional helmets, some fabric, cloth, cape-looking items, some decent and interesting weapons. Basically, a lot of figure pieces and parts that look like they would continue to work really well with the what's it called? The Cosmic Legions for sure.
Yeah.
There was also some updates from Valaverse. They were showing some updates I saw of their Pandora's file card on some of the new merchandise that's going to be coming. Zujitsu comic graphic novel did launch. It's live on Kickstarter. We'll give you updates next week on that one.
Yes, also with Zujitsu, the figures are back up on that big store.
They're working with them again. I didn't even pick up on that. That's interesting. Yeah. I was not
aware. I just saw that late this afternoon. It popped up.
Interesting. That's interesting. I did not see that.
Yeah.
Ramen also given some updates on their Super Musk prototype. Looks really cool what they're doing with that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle looking town, like sewer dio stuff.
Yeah. If anybody wants to see a good review of that, Nostalgia Unboxed did an excellent review of.
Oh, really?
Some of that, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if he got a sample or how he did it, but he did a pretty cool review of it. But.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw he did something recently. I didn't realize it was with Ramen's.
Yeah.
I did see some updated photography from Monster Force, and it looks like they're like darn near ready, right? Like I feel like
according to the email I got from Big Bad on the pre-order, they will ship in October.
Okay, so we're looking at like Halloween time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Which might have been planned,
Makes sense.
Because they were going to ship in August, and they might have said, let's wait till Halloween time, spooky season.
Yeah, if you weren't going to hit July or whatever, and you're a month out, folks have already paid or, put down their deposits and stuff.
And again, time they went out to Robo and MCU Collector and a couple other guys I can't remember now who I also watched.
Morphinauts has some updates and some of their 3D printable figures that they're working on. They're the ones that did the Kickstarter with those 4 different characters. So they have those. There was also what I thought was interesting. This is a follow-up to the Valaverse. They posted a video on social media over the weekend, I think, where they were showing that they're trying to do some not necessarily innovative, but some alternative, more deluxe style things, where they presented some cloth-looking packs that go over the chest, and then potentially like cloth book bags and backpacks. So they were posing those and kind of asking folks what their thoughts on it, if they'd be interested in things like that, more, in a deluxe tier. And I was like, that's cool, because they look good. And, I like the bags that they, the packs that they gave them. But, they're stiff and they're stagnant. They really, they don't have that flexibility based on what's in them. And the ones that he was showing in the preview that, he's considering was really cool. Got a couple
Problem
other
I have
items.
with I like the design of the Valaverse figures, but the problem with the Valaverse backpacks is the same problem that Joe has, is that most of the figures don't have straps to have the backpack actually on.
Well, that's the current ones, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
These ones are cloth bags, like the straps and everything.
Yeah.
And the bag itself being completely cloth in the images. Private. I'll send it over to you, and I'm sure we'll see more of it as it continues to come forward, if that's the route they go. But it seemed it was very positive from people looking to potentially go down that route. So yeah, and then a couple other items. There was a cool picture by Creative Beast Studios of one of their, I believe it's like a 1/18 scale like dragon that they were showing painted up. It's their Arctic dragon figure. Thing looks really cool.
I can't wait till that black Smilodon comes out.
Okay, yeah, dude, those are gonna be cool. There was an announcement that was formally done. I thought I had already seen it from Invincible Toys. Obviously, Invincible Toys had what they've deemed as a failed Kickstarter, and I know that they can't really speak too much on things. Things I've read online suggest it's likely due to the fact that there's a pending lawsuit potentially that they're going to be submitting, or they're engaging with against the factories they attempted to work with. Again, I don't have any inside knowledge. That's just what I've seen people posting online. But they had announced that they weren't going to be working with Fist anymore on the promotion and production of the product. So I don't know exactly what that entails for Fist, but Fist also announced that it is standalone. It is no longer working with Invincible Toys, which seemed delayed in the communication because it was clearly stated by Invincible that was the case, but Fist hasn't stood out.
I'm guessing that Fist was probably still getting associated with them, just because Fist was really associated with them just so they had an American, a U.S. based company, right? So I think it just helped them separate farther by officially announcing it. So they're not to them at all.
Just kind of like, coming out and reminding folks, hey, the stuff that happened with Invincible Toys is on them. We're not them. We are our own.
We're doing our own thing over here, and we'll figure it out, right?
Yep, that would make sense and would align. And I mean, they did continue to say that they have a good working agreement, a working relationship, and that they may work together in the future. But currently, they are not partnering on anything. And then there's some updates from Savage Crucible. They'll be at Joe Lanta in a couple weeks. You'll be able to get some of those, some of the conclusives, I think, and then some of the Savage the slates, Lemurians that they have. And then there was some recent updates from like a 1/12 prototype from Patriot Force, and like you said, there's the Panther Primal and the other primals that were released, images from Brutal Realms. So that one's a big one. I know folks will be paying really close attention to that.
Just in general news, the G.I. Joe Classified Rattler crossed 28,000 backers.
Oh, did it?
Last night when it ended at midnight. So I'm sure a bunch of those guys got charged overnight for their Rattler HasLab. So that was, going to be going into production. And Fat Red Foo decided to show up finally. What's up, Foo? Where you been, you bastard? Hanging out, acting like you're busy, doing the life.
Good deal.
And
Yeah, the name's interesting. When I read it, it's kind of like seems weird, but when you see it, it doesn't bother me because they have the periods between them, so you know it stands for something else.
yeah,
So like it's it's an acronym for something, but or the initials, whatever it is. So when I see it on paper or on the boxes, it doesn't bother me. But when I hear something, oh, did you get the fist toy? And I'm like, I don't know if is that PG or So
well,
yeah.
there's probably also a language barrier, right? Because
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, that
I
would
don't
make
know if
sense.
he speaks Portuguese or if it's Spanish. I don't know where he's at in in South America, but I'm guessing Colombia, so it's probably Portuguese. But
Gotcha.
maybe to them the slang fist doesn't mean much.
Yeah. I mean, there's some words that I've heard folks from like Australia use on podcasts or
Yeah,
in things where it's like you say it in the US, it's really gonna drop.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's gonna drop some jaws, but
yeah. Like they throw around the C word like it's nothing,
that's
right? Yeah,
that's what I was alluding to.
yeah,
That
and
word is like morning coffee. Like, did
yeah.
you get your cup of coffee today? And,
That's
and,
like
and
it's kind of funny because like around here we call people dicks all the time, right? In the U.S., right? And I guess it means the same thing over there, just the different word.
yeah. So there's definitely that connotation how things have much more stronger feelings or local culture, to
Yeah.
the word. So yeah. So that's kind of like the news that I have. Is there anything from a news? And again, I'm sorry I didn't have the slides and the cool imagery. Promise to get back to that next week for folks. Because I like looking at it, I like sharing it and
Yeah.
talking about the cool stuff.
The only thing I'd say that was pretty cool, Mezco Toys, which I like Mezco figures, they dropped Nightwing over the last couple weeks since we
Oh,
haven't
cool.
gone live. And he's up for pre-order on Helidope and other places and still on Mezco Toys. And then they dropped their Junkyard Joe, which is the robot that like got dropped into Vietnam. But the pre-order for that closed, so you'd have to join the wait list. But it took a couple of days longer than usual for that Junkyard Joe to be considered sold out. But so
Okay. Good
that's
deal.
all I have.
Cool. I mean, that's interesting that because Mezco stuff sells pretty fast when they drop. So
Normally it does, yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So with that said, imagine we played a really cool video runner as we lead into the main topic like I normally do. Something with flash photography and awesome edits and some really cool cut scenes and things like that. And now we're back to the celebrity figures. Sorry, I just saw Cup's comment there. And then we're going to talk about the impact of pop culture toy lines, right? So, going back to what I talked about earlier, right? Celebrity action figures are more than just toys, right? It's an opportunity, a way to get something you see on screen. You see some of the famous people you see, represented. I immediately think of like a Tom Cruise, and I know you don't get a Tom Cruise figure because it's not officially licensed and he won't let people make it. But I think of folks who want to collect that celebrity beyond just the toy lines and the character in the movie, but they want that tie back to the actual, individual.
Back maybe in the 90s, late mid 90s, there was a toy company that made 1/6 scale highly articulated figures, kind of in line with like Hot Toys and Sideshow.
Okay.
And they had two head sculpts that were Tom Cruise. One was from Mission Impossible. One was from like a Top Gun look. And man, those figures sold like crazy, dude. So it's like, people really groove on the celebrities. And I think with the celebrities, just to start to kick the conversation off, I think with the celebrities, it's more than just like some people buy them because they like the movie that it's from. Some people buy it because it's just the actual actor that they follow. And some people just buy it because they like them. Right. Or some people just buy it because it's a cool toy. And it's really funny how that ties in all together. The three.
And then there's people who like they're not really toy collectors, but they collect, and we'll talk about it a little bit later when we get into the pops and stuff. But like, all of these, celebrities, and we're not just talking like your toy characters from TV show, like not things that were created to a show from a toy, but like really, a character or an actor, a famous celebrity that became a toy because of something they took part in, and the fact that, in some cases, these people collect them with the intentions that, oh, I know I'm going to get to go to an autograph signing and I want to have them sign not just a picture, but like a toy that was their creation. It actually favors very much so to one of my main collecting lines, because of what they are toys of, right? So, what I would ask is that for folks to go ahead and, in the chat, those that are listening along as we're talking through this, tell me what your first celebrity action figure was, like, celebrity toy. Tell that and we'll talk about it, because we'll get into, what our first celebrity action figure was. And I'm going to talk about mine at the end. And I bet you nobody will guess which one it was or what it was.
I would guess that it's probably a wrestler, right?
I don't know. Stick around to the end and maybe I'll tell you. So when we talk about, action figures and toys becoming, created as real life icons, we talk about, it's a trend that continues to today, that started way back when and into at least the 70s. And I didn't go too far back. I went back far enough when I was doing the research for this. But movie stars, athletes, musicians, influencers, and such. So, and Ed, as I'm going through my notes that I have here, please chime in at any time and add your context around it, because this is really specifically from the research I could find. Some of it ties to things that I have personally or I experienced, or some of the details I gathered as I was putting this together. But one of the what I was able to find is kind of at its earliest, and again, I'm sure this isn't the earliest, but it's the earliest one I was able to track down that seemed relevant from things we've talked about, is kind of some of the origins of the celebrity action figures. And the first one was that I was able to find was built around either Kenner's Steve Austin figure, the $6 million man from 1975, or even Mego's Muhammad Ali in 1976. So, going back to Steve Austin's $6 million man one, that was kind of, it was based on, the TV show with Lee Majors, and had features like the Bionic Eye, it really kind of helped set the precedence for celebrity driven figures, right? Although Austin was a fictional character, the success showed that people wanted toys of characters played by popular actors. And
he came out around the same time too as Mego was really getting popular with their MASH figures, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, Happy Days. They ended up doing some Dukes of Hazzard figures, So Mego, I would say, probably really kicked off the real life celebrities in action figure form, because they had, like the Partridge Family and Jesus, everybody, Kiss, all of them. So.
And that makes sense. And one of the ones that I found, which was highlighted from the 70s, was the Muhammad Ali one, right? And that was one that I think transcended both kids and adults at that time, right? Because Muhammad Ali was someone that both children and adults looked at and recognized, and in a lot of ways looked up to. So the fact that you could get his figure with gloves and a belt, kind of it essentially captured his essence and persona throughout it. And it symbolized more than a toy. It kind of represented Ali's legacy, as a, his legacy, as a cultural and political figure. Because, being honest and not trying to, I'm not digging in politics, especially not tonight, right? There's plenty of that going on.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that's going on tonight.
Go check that out if you guys want to, or you can talk to these two people. But really, he represented a large cultural shift and, things, around that. So he really, and, from what I could gather, again, this is before my time, but I could recognize the, not the status, but the, I can recognize the significance of Muhammad Ali's, celebrityism to a toy line, a toy figure.
Yeah,
I mean, really, kind of a bold move if you think about it, right? Because, not only are you taking, a celebrity, you're not just taking some IP character and putting out a toy to make money off. You're paying somebody to have access to their likeness, and then you're producing a toy, and one who at times could be both, and I mean, again, this is political spectrum, and I'm not going there, but not everyone necessarily agreed with where he was coming from in his stance and certain things. So, it was I'm sure it was a bold move, or at least at the time considered a bold move, to create a toy around his likeness.
Yeah. It's hard to, with the celebrity figures, because it's kind of funny, because if you think about, like I just said, there was a ton of stuff that Mego did with specific characters, and there's Steve Austin and the Steve Austin and the characters from that show they did, and then you get it to the later 70s and 80s. Companies really shied away from doing likenesses, right? Like Star Wars, none of the action figures from Star Wars looked like Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford or whatever, right? They really tried to stray away from getting the license for
Okay.
the actor. They just got the license for the property. You know
Huh.
what I mean? So it's like, we're going to do Star Wars, but none of the characters are going to look exactly like the stars. Nowadays, we all want the characters to look just like the movie stars that played them. It's kind of a
That's
funny
an
shift.
interesting one. I think we can talk about as we go through this a little bit further.
Yeah.
Because that I don't know is actually what a lot. We'll talk about that as we go for it. I definitely want to talk more into that one, Ed, because that's something I have noted here a little bit later. You hit the nail on the head with something that I think is an interesting perspective, because I don't think everyone feels that way. And again, I mentioned Steve Austin, and I use that one because the wrestling reference there. I know it's not wrestling related, but it makes me think wrestling, and of course that's where my mind goes. But that show's success made the toy a hit from what I was able to gather online. And then it was one of the first of many celebrity driven action figures that was tied into popular pop culture media at the time and moving forward. The next influence one that I have here, and we'll go back and forth in time, but more targeted towards specific toy lines that cover different areas of pop culture. But really specifically, this one's going to be around, believe it or not, wrestling, right? And the reason I bring this up is because wrestling is they're celebrities, and I know it's a niche celebrity group, but I mean they definitely cross the gamut of a number of different media outlets and such. But in the 90s, and even prior to the 90s, you had the LJNs, and they were big. So I was gonna say they're not as big, but they were big. They were big in rubber and a great dog chew toy. But in the early 90s, there was the Hasbro figures that had come out, and they really tried to capitalize on the iconic celebrity nature of Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and Ultimate Warrior, right? They became collectibles, like those. Like if you watch the Major Bros podcast with Matt Cardona and his buddy there, Brian Myers, they former WWE superstars, guys about my age who got into pro wrestling, actually traveled very similar circuits to me. And then they made it into the big leagues, but they're huge toy collectors, and they go out and find all these things. And, they're always hunting down these different, Hasbro figures and such. But, they were big behind that wrestling celebrityism from the, 80s and 90s. And it really, in my opinion, it's a natural fit, right? They're characters, but they're celebrities. Cause like a lot of times in wrestling, these characters, even though they are actors and athletic, doing this media as wrestling, they go out into the other things, Saturday Night Live or movies, and they play a representation of themselves to some degree. And it oftentimes are branded as the actor or the name of the person they're playing, in the WWF or WWE, whatever it's being called. So,
Have a good night, Cobb.
Oh, thanks, Cobb. So, they're actually they're basically like real life versions of superheroes. I've talked about that before. But the toys, again, bridge that gap between kids play and the adult fandom. An opportunity for parents, fathers and sons and moms and children, to go to these shows, live action stuff in front of them, displayed in a ring, and then obviously on their Saturday morning or Sunday morning and Monday nights, having that opportunity. And they're toys, right? They're collectibles. I mean, I got a whole shelf behind me of them. So, and again, that we've talked about this from the 90s to today, right? There's Mattel's taking them over. Jakks Pacific's had them in between. You've had your Hulks, your Stone Colds, your Rocks, to Roman Reigns and those today. Any insight on that? Or do you think I covered and beat the wrestling ones up pretty heavily?
I think you beat the wrestling up pretty good,
Yeah, I think I body slammed it. I
definitely was a power slam for sure.
Yes. There's some music icons too that we saw. Is there a music icon that comes to your mind? And then in the 90s that you would think to
I'll tell you, Kiss started the whole craze of musicians being in action figure form.
I mean, they
Back
fit it
in-
perfect.
Yeah.
They fit it perfect.
Back in the 70s, they had 8-inch action figures. They had 12-inch action figures, and I think they were probably some of the first action figures redone in modern days, right?
Did McFarlane do those in the early 2000s, late 90s?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I would have seen him first.
Yeah.
But when I was doing my research, just to add to the context here, it was Mego back in 1978.
Yep.
Launched their
Yeah.
Kiss action figures. And being honest, like that
You could-
celebrity rock star, they're perfect toys. They were made to be toys.
Well, you can
that's
say
probably
what you
why
want
they
to
did.
say about Gene Simmons, and he's got a lot of bad rap for being a real prick and everything else. But that dude was all about marketing, and that's all it was, man. He had Kiss on everything from action figures to dolls to blankets, and I mean, this is before like collecting that kind of stuff was considered
Okay.
normal, right? It's like
So before Kiss, or not before Kiss, but one of the ones that I found in preparation for this that I found before I brought up the Kiss figures from Mego in 78 was actually a Playmates toy in the 90s of, again, another music icon, one that's no longer with us today. We're not going to talk about all the potential bad things that he may have done or the thriller that he might have been. Really sad approaches at trying to slip this in there. But Michael Jackson, right? So
yeah,
he
my
had
sister who's what 4 years younger than me, so 5 years younger than me, so she's 46. Don't tell her I told you. She's 46, and I remember being a kid, and she had the Michael Jackson dolls. There was like 3 or 4 of them, right? And she had all 3 or 4 or whatever there was. The one with the red suit from Thriller. She had the one with the white suit with the diamond glove and all of it. I mean,
so the first one that I was able to find, and the one they say is kind of seen as more the most iconic, is his moonwalk figure.
Yeah.
That came out, and that was in the 90s. They definitely released, as you alluded to, some other iconic outfits and dance poses. But they were built and made to reflect the different eras of Jackson's career, and where they were designed as collectible items, right, for fans of all ages. But let's be honest, that was targeting a specific market and trying to reach into the wallets of some folks who weren't just kids. And that impact of trying to monetize off the celebrity in some sort of figure form was definitely something they did with Playmates toys in the 90s for this one. And again, goes back to the point of taking the likeness of some major star. Today would be Taylor Swift, and I'm not a fan of hers myself, but and I'm not saying she's bad. I just not my thing, right? But I know my daughter loves that stuff. But wouldn't surprise me if there was, and I didn't look into this to see if it was, but I in the moment as we're talking about these musicians, I would see her as one of those major iconic figures that would be out now.
I'm really surprised that no one's made a Taylor Swift.
I don't know that they have. I don't know that they have.
I've never seen it. If they have, it's like, an exclusive type of thing, right? But I'm like thinking to myself, like, if you put Taylor Swift, right? Because like think about when they had the iCarly, or not, is it iCarly? What was the one that Miley Cyrus did? Whatever the hell that was. iCarly. No, Hannah Montana, right? Yep. They had the Hannah Montana dolls when my girls were little. So I mean, imagine now putting like a Taylor Swift doll line out. I mean, shit, if that was in Walmart, girls would be flocking all over that shit.
Yeah. Oh, so there are some Taylor Swift stuff out there. I just looked. There's like a Santa baby holiday Barbie looking one, and there's some Pops things out there. So there's definitely
but I'm talking about like if they did like they did the Hannah Montana, right? They did a whole bunch of dolls of her, right? With all of her outfits. They did Britney Spears.
My guess is she's very specific in the IP licensing there. So that's probably the reason. But going to music celebrityism and then that pop culture stuff, she seems like she'd be a perfect fit for a multi-million-dollar revenue generator for Mattel or Hasbro.
Seriously, absolutely.
Yeah. I think, so those are the things I captured around the, music genre. And then I wanted to talk a little bit here around movie star influence. And these two, I've targeted action figures. We're talking real life action figures. Do you know who these two are, Ed, that I have in mind? I got 2 of them. Like, there's other ones I'll talk about a little bit more, but like movie star action figures. Who were you to guess? And I'll give you some ranges. Probably from like the mid 80s to like the early 90s are probably their largest maybe even touching in the 70s. If I
Are you
recall.
talking about Stallone and Schwarzenegger?
Oh my goodness, you hit it on the head, brother. Yeah, so there was the Terminator from Kenner in 91. They had the toys that they, released and coincide with the movie's success. Arnold with his leather jacket and shades.
Yep.
It's probably one of his most iconic figures. I wouldn't say in my mind that's his most iconic figure, but that's just because I'm a real big nerd. And there's that Jingle All the Way movie.
Oh, I
And
love
Turbo
Jingle
Man
All the Way, dude.
to me is like the figure I think of when I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But again, not his. It's a whole different
Turbo
beast.
time.
But exactly. The figure's success though from the Terminator side, it demonstrated how a major star like Arnold, could influence the market.
You look at they had Rambo figures out in the 80s based off the
Stallone
cartoon,
comes
right?
from.
I mean,
Yep. That's the Stallone figure. That's the one. It's 1985. I think it's Calico Toys maybe had created it. I could be pronouncing my word wrong here, but back in 85 they had a toy line for Stallone as Rambo. Larger than life. He had exaggerated muscles, heavy artillery, quite a bit of survival gear. Survival gear. And this allowed those kids back in the 80s to really like blend their hyper masculine, heroism of the 80s toy culture while enacting, what Rambo is doing. Rambo's toy line was one of the first to tie an adult themed violent movie with action figures, aimed at a younger audience. We saw it later on with things like RoboCop and
Christine brings up another one, right? There was Chuck Norris figures from
oh man, I didn't even think about him.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Right in line with those guys, right? They were the Karate Commandos.
Yep. Wasn't even one of, you know what? That's because Chuck Norris gets his own line.
That's right. Well, yeah,
Somebody
Chuck Norris.
tried to and
Chuck
just
Norris
made-
is the line, right? He
Exactly.
created toys, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's a little bit more in the superheroes and action figures. And that's kind of where I wanted to go into the conversation about the MC. I use MCU as the example. I think that's a really good example because there is definitive collectors in the toy lines that will collect Marvel Legends specifically, but they won't touch the MCU likeness ones because they don't want them. They want the ones that are more tied to the comic book nostalgia that they grew up with, not so much the Chris Evans or Chris Pratts of the MCU today. So there's there's a difference in that collector market.
Yeah, you see it in with Mezco too. Though Mezco released like a Spider-Man based on Tobey Maguire or Tom, whatever the new guy's name is there, and then they'll release like a comic book version. And some people just want the comic book version, and some people got to have that that actor's face right from the movie.
Yep. Well. And it's interesting when you think about it, because I think of my oldest was, around 06 or something. And I don't know exactly, without looking back, I don't know exactly when Hasbro got the, the Marvel license from, who was it that had him? Toy Biz before that. Yep. So he had a lot of the Toy Biz figures in 06. I don't know if that was just leftover Toys R Us stuff and things like that. And when Hasbro got that license, but I do know that Hasbro got the Iron Man licensing for the MCU, what opened the door for MCU of Robert Downey Jr. So, Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark, massively drove the sales for that MCU Legends figure from Hasbro. And it honestly, let's be honest, if you didn't grow up in the, 90s and 80s watching and reading comics or seeing the cartoon stuff, I think in some cases people only see Downey's face for Iron Man. I don't know that that's the same for all of the other cast members. They've done a great job with a lot of those cast members.
I think Chris Evans is probably on par with Downey Jr.
He's right there, but
not outside of that. I don't think any of the other stars have that same draw.
Exactly. I would say Doctor Strange has a very close. They did such a good job. He looks so much like the characters. That it's close, but again, Robert Downey Jr. To me, that's what Iron Man looks like no questions asked. So, that was a huge selling point for a celebrity turned to a toy, and I think it probably largely generated a massive amount of collectible merchandise for folks to feel like, oh, let me go grab this Downey Jr. figure. It's going to be
Yeah.
worth money. I'm going to go get him to sign it. And there's something about that, right? Is I think that a lot of these celebrities to toys, there's that people who want to monetize the value on it. Because yes, you can get Stan Lee or somebody who signed off on a toy or an art, like a character that they helped design, Todd McFarlane. But there's something else about getting a toy that looks like the person signing it, that like is a replica of them, and then feeling like they can then resell that later or have some value to it that people are willing to pay. So I think that plays into it a lot, and I think that probably was very impactful or very driving in some ways for the MCU line, for those that do collect the MCU ones. I mean, actually, while we're sitting here, they've come out with these large 1/12 figures for Legends, and I know this isn't Tony Stark as in Robert Downey, but I just found these recently, and I mean, like, even though that doesn't look spot on to Robert Downey Jr., I'm like, that's Robert, like, that's a really bad version of it. But they had those 1/12, I'm sorry, not 1/12, 1/6 scale figures, which they're like, to me, they're very close to the MCU ones. That again, it's not identical, but they did such a good job casting it. It's who I still see when I look at it.
So it's funny because like some of those figure lines, like those tall, cheaper ones, right? They used a loose likeness, right? Because those toys they sell for like $10, right? They were like
the ones that I just showed you, these are the Marvel Legends ones that have multiple points of articulation.
Oh, okay.
They're essentially just a 1/6 scale version of a legend.
They probably didn't pay the license for their faces. But they used an homage type of,
exactly. Yes.
Thought process.
Very much so.
I have to bring up this comment from Brick real quick, and then we'll touch base on some other comments because there's a bunch of them in here about people's first toys. But my thing is going so slow. If he'll say, has Robin Williams, Mork from Mork and Mindy Show, 3.75 space action fig and Talking Doll were the shit. Now, I had the 3.75 Mork action figure too, and I used to love, because Mork would travel in basically an egg spaceship, right? Yep. And of course, I didn't have the egg spaceship. So back in the day, pantyhose from, I think, Legs is what the pantyhose company was, came in plastic eggs. And my dad actually cut a window out of an egg and put a seat in there made out of cardboard or balsa wood or something, so I could put my Mork from Ork in his egg and have him fly away in his spaceship.
That's cool. Sorry, I was getting my screens all were shutting off and stuff. I was trying to pull them back, so thank you for running point on that for a second.
We have a ton of stuff in the chat about their topic. So
cool.
First of all, let's show this picture that Brick wanted me to present here real quick.
Okay, let me stop sharing real quick.
This is just in part of the conversation. So this is the Green Ranger. I think it must be from third party, but a lot of people are talking about how his likeness is not perfect, but I don't know anything about the Power Rangers, so I couldn't tell you if it looks good or not.
Yeah, so that's Frank's there.
Jason David Franks, the one that passed away.
Jason David Franks, yeah. So I don't know what that one's from or whatnot, but they did a great job. It's almost say great. They did a good job on a number of the Power Ranger Lightning figures where their likenesses, and not just necessarily his, but for a lot of them, they did very close. It's not spot on, but almost like the homage sense to them. I'm not completely disappointed with a lot of the ones that my youngest son has collected there. I thought a lot of them looked very close to what I remember, specifically like Jason, the Red Ranger from the early Mighty Morphin, and then Zach from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from those first series. I thought they did a really good job with those. Brick's crapping on them, I think, in the chat, but those are ones that I enjoyed. So,
so I get back up to the top where the action figure talk here. So first of all, I gotta find it here. There we are. Nolan says his first celebrity figure was Alice Cooper.
Okay.
And Brick said his mom was a doll collector. She had the Sonny and Cher, Marilyn Monroe, Liberace. Wow, she had it signed by Liberace before he passed. Wow, that's impressive.
Wow.
Maskatron. Yeah, he was part of the Steve Austin $6 Million Man. Sergeant Slaughter, Joe thinks was his first action figure that was based on a celebrity. Evel Knievel from Christine Mendoza. That was a good one. Yeah. Brick said he had Ponchin from Chips, and his brother had Ace Frehley. That's cool. Christine says she had Roby the Robot. And Brick mentioning his Mork figure again, but that was before. He was talking about this too, struggling with the character versus the person thing, right? And then you, of course, you name pro wrestling, so that makes it a really tough decision there because the person is ultimately the character. Brick's mom also had MJ in her collection, and yes, the big Mr. T figure. I was a huge Mr. T fan in the '80s because of the A-Team, right? So I had both versions of him from the A-Team figures, and then I had both of his large scale figures, which are they're actually like 13 inches. I still have one of them from my childhood today, but I don't have the talking one. There was two versions, a non-talking and a talking one. Of course, Mr. T was hugely popular, right? But that also drove Sergeant Slaughter and Refrigerator Perry to be put into the G.I. Joe team.
Yep, Joe's. Yep, absolutely.
Briscoe has a couple of Michael Jackson modern ones from the Hot Toys collection.
Yeah.
So Christine says her uncle collected comics and her cousin collected Smurfs, so she was influenced early to be a collector. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And the collecting brother stopped in and said, Annie, I think he meant Arnie. Right? He said it again, so maybe that's what he said. Yep, Arnie. Yep. Stupid spell check anyway. I'm not sure what he's talking about here, but maybe he's talking about the Chuck Norris. I think they had a car that had knives and swords that popped up the sides.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everyone has their ideal character design in their head. Yeah, everybody, yeah, it's the same with anything, right? You got guys that love the golden age superheroes, the silver age superheroes, the modern age superheroes. It's everybody has that thing. And Christine saying she loved the Mork and Ork figures and Fonzie. Yep, I had Fonzie when I was younger. What's this? No, those are fine, Travis. Third party.
He's talking about the Power Ranger Lightning. This is. Yeah. Did you see? And I may have missed you pulling this up. Did you see Christine's message here where she talks about Evel Knievel being the first one?
No, I missed that one.
Yep. So she had mentioned Evel Knievel, and then Joe here had mentioned Sergeant Slaughter being one of his first.
I brought Joe's up for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember that one.
I try to think of who my first one was. I know it was probably Amigo, but I can't tell if it was either probably the Fonz or I have to say it's either the Amigo Fonz, Evel Knievel, or the $6 Million Man Steve Austin. I had all three of those, and I couldn't tell you, from when I was 5, which one I had first.
Yeah, and I'll tell you mine in a moment, but I'm going to hold back just a minute because there's a couple other items I want to cover before we kind of close this one up. So we're in 2024. Some of these earliest ones we're talking about in the 70s, right? So we're talking almost 50 years. And I know it's not quite 50 years, but almost 50 years
Close
of
enough.
celebrities being created into toys. And for those that aren't familiar, the technology that we have readily available to us for scanning heads and things is massively better than it ever was before. And it's only continuing to be improved.
But even without the scanning, right? Without the scanning, I mean, back in the day, there was a dude that sculpted the head, right, out of clay, and then it had to be molded, and then that's why some of the molds don't look like the characters perfect because just the molding process back then didn't let you get all the details. Nowadays, you can go into a 3D, modeler and
Yep.
just take and build it from there, and then you can tweak all those details. So
Exactly.
anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's exactly what I was getting to, Ed, is that, back in the like 90s or the 80s when we were getting these toys that were, made in reference to these celebrities, these people you could meet face to face, not like a drawing or like an idea in a comic and a cartoon, but truly someone you could stare back and forth with and have a conversation with. You legitimately have the technology, like those, they were close.
Yeah.
And use an example. Actually, I have one right here in my hand. If this toy had been made and Downey Jr. had been made in the 70s as Iron Man, that's what his head would have likely looked like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very
Absolutely.
close. You would definitely say, "Oh, that's Iron Man. That's Robert Downey Jr."
Yeah.
But it wasn't exactly what you could do today. So, I mean, and the flip side of that is this figure right here, right? Is Gunther, right? That's real scanned imagery of his head that is taking in the depth and the consideration. So what's cool is someone like even myself has the technology to do that now.
Yeah.
So celebrity figures and things, I'm sure, are going to continue to be an item. And they're going to be more realistic and more detailed than ever. It's kind of creepy to some degree. That's why some folks that are in that area, they won't agree to have their IP generated into a toy because it's a little creepy.
I can tell you back in the 90s, right? I was building. I had a buddy who lived in New York City. He was a sculptor.
Yep.
And he was sculpting likenesses of characters from Bruce Willis and Harrison Ford and all those guys, right? And he was sculpting them out of clay and then casting them in resin. And I would put them I'd paint them up and I'd put them onto 1/6 scale bodies and find the right clothes for them. And I was selling, custom Indiana Jones figures on eBay all day long for, I had maybe $25 invested and I was selling them for $250 because you just didn't.
So you're talking about knockoff Lone Star figures?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you just didn't have those options back then, right? No one was like, there were some third parties from China that were selling character licenses, like I talked about with that Tom Cruise head. But for the most part, it was guys sculpting and then casting the heads in resin and then selling them, right? That's how you did it back in the 90s. So it's like, even back then, it was huge. Nowadays, it's a lot easier because everybody has a 3D printer and you can just
3D scanner.
3D scanners. Yep. But a lot of guys have 3D printers, right? And all they have to do is buy the model, and then they can print as many of those heads as they want.
Yeah, or somehow get the guy in person and scan their head, and then put it into the machine. Now you have the ability to get that full rendering likeness, and then you have the ability to print that at your fingertips. So that's really what I was getting at. I mean, we know that it's probably the most besides the MCU stuff, the most popular toys that are out there that are using a likeness is, I would say, either between Black Series or professional wrestling in the WWE using that digital face printing. So not only do they scan the figures, because I remember earlier on they used to scan the figures. You had that, and here's a good example. You had the cheap Hasbro create your own figurehead, right?
Yeah.
That was literally, they just took your picture and they printed it on the head.
Yeah.
But with 3D scanners and that print technology, you combine those so that you have a scanner that scans the shape, and then you take that picture and you drop it over the molding of your head. You'll find all of those adjustments in the structure, and it'll look cleaner.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring you those really, really lifelike.
Yeah, Gentle Giant really started that off with like full body 3D scanners. They started that whole thing off.
Who was that?
Gentle Giant Studios, and they did it with statues. And they, like a celebrity, right, would go into the scanner as the character, and they would scan the whole thing, and they would create a statue from that. And then it's just, now it's small. You can carry it in your hand, right? But back then it was it was like going into the airport check thing, right? Where you got your scan, right? It was that type of thing.
Well, I remember the first time I saw anything like that was in the 90s. Jax had the WWE figures, or WWF at the time lines, and they were doing like the Titantron live figures or whatever they were, and they were doing like real face scans. And I'm sure the technology was butt back then,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I remember them.
Absolutely.
But they were taking these like the Jeff Hardys, the Triple H's, the Rocks and Austins and stuff, and they showed video at one point of them going into like this, scanning tool, like you're saying, like an MRI machine or a CAT scan machine,
Yep.
and going into them, and it was just doing all of this like rendering and stuff, and spitting out the junk that the 90s technology could do. And now, like you said, right, I can do it with my phone, or I can do it with a device almost the size of my phone, and
Yep.
get a much more lifelike experience. So it's really cool to see where it's going and whatnot. And I think what it does is it speaks volume to what is to come, which leads me to the next two pieces, right? We've had folks post about what their first toy is that they have with a celebrity. What is a celebrity figure that you want to see? What is a celebrity figure that you don't have today that you'd like to see? And that's to those in the chat, or watching this at a replay, put it in the comments. Let us know what toy you'd like to see. And Joe, thank you for hitting that head on the head. That makes sense. Gentle Giants was doing that. That would make sense that they were doing that back in the 90s. So my first celebrity figure, I'm going to answer this two parts because there's really kind of two. The first one was, believe it or not, a wrestling figure. It was, guys.
I can't believe that.
It was. I've actually mentioned
I'm
this
shocked
figure.
that you liked wrestling.
I've mentioned this specific figure because it has a ton of sentimental value. This goes back to why we collect what we collect, and it's that smell of the room or the store or the place, the music, all that nostalgia of what it is. And then my first one was the Big Boss Man, Hasbro action figure. 20 minutes from where I live today, my grandmother took me to the grocery store on a Friday night. It was visiting her for the weekend, and we walked through the grocery store, and there was a Hasbro Big Boss Man, bend him, snap him arm, beat him with the Billy Club, figure. And I she asked me what I want. I said, that's what I want right there. Because they didn't have any of the other ones. They didn't have the Rockers. They didn't have the guys that I want. So I got the Big Boss Man. So she let me get that one. I still remember to this day. It was like that would be my first real wrestling action figure that I remember. And it also is the first celebrity figure. Fast forward, if we're talking non-wrestlers, because they're characters, right? They're superheroes in toy form or in television and things like that, but more of a real life celebrity. The first one I remember having was Ozzy Osbourne figure from McFarlane, probably in 99 or 2000. I feel like he was there was a whole line of series that came out. You can get them from
that was the
Spencer's,
Music
Hot
Maniacs
Topic,
or whatever they called them.
Yeah, like they were
Spencer's and Hot Topic.
They were at Spencer's or Hot Topic back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I got him, and I got the Scream character from the Scream movies, like a Ghostface or whatever. I think there might have been an Alice Cooper one then. I might have had that one too. And there was might have been a few of them that I bought off the shelf at that point. So Ozzy's the one I distinctively remember, and him being a celebrity, and I loved his music.
It's funny because back in the 90s, I remember going to FYE and Hot Topic and Spencer.
Same thing.
And there was just walls of these plastic. I mean, they were basically statues, right? They were
they were statues, dude.
They were statues, and there was the Movie Maniacs, there was Music Maniacs, there was Spawn figures, and all these other companies were kind of mimicking what McFarlane was doing. They were all very similar to that style, but cool stuff
for sure. So that brings us in closing, right? We kind of talked about it. I shared my little nostalgia piece. It's all wrestling all the time for me in this quirky little mind of mine.
Nolan, back in the day, Hasbro made a really, really nice Steve McQueen figure that came on a World War II Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Oh, so that's not like
G.I. Joe line.
That's not the Disney Pixar movie McQueen. It's something else.
No, Steve McQueen from The Great Escape. Have you ever watched The Great Escape? No, that's just a no.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. It sounds like something I might have seen, but I don't remember. I don't remember.
Another good one.
Sounds like something I might have seen. I'd have to go back and check. Something maybe my dad would have had me watch. I don't recall.
Steve McQueen was he was an action star like the 70s and did some great movies. Oh, and Ozzy Oz is showing up. Speaking of Ozzy.
Oh, speaking
What's
of
up,
Oz,
Oz?
I was just talking about him.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Yeah,
even Briscoe
so-
says Bullet. Bullet with his Mustang against
Oh, actually,
uncultured.
I might have seen The Great Escape. Is that the one you said?
Yeah, it's one of
I
them.
might have seen that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all good movies.
Real quick. Just looked it up. Yeah, so speaking to this, right? I think it just goes back, right? Toys, collectibles, anything they can make money off of. If somebody's willing to sell their IP and they have any value, they're going to try to produce something in plastic. And there's going to be some collectors going to buy it because either it brings them back to a point in time, or it makes them think that they have some potential opportunity of meeting said celebrity and potentially having it signed and having it more valuable than the other 10 ones that were on the shelf that they bought that one from.
Yeah, right.
Or some people just they love that movie, they love that character, they love the actor that did it, and they just want to hold on to a piece of it, and put it on a shelf, right, and declare it to be ToyLeet per se. So I think this goes back to pop culture, toys. They run hand in hand. It's adjacent to one another. As pop culture grows, and we didn't talk a lot about it, and that kind of cut some things out just in timing. Pops, right? They're the goofiest looking little things. They are cool to some. Some people think they're dumb, but there are so many different people on them, right? You have characters, you have celebrities, you have sports stars, and we didn't even talk about the McFarlane Sports Picks ones of all the athletes that they made for football and basketball, hockey, and baseball over the years. But it's everywhere. They're injected into every aisle in a toy store or in the toy aisles in a store, whether in some capacity. So I don't think it's going to change. I think they impact the toy lines tremendously. Going back to the one that I collected in early 2000s by McFarlane with Ozzy, along with that and many other things, got us to the stuff we deal with today with McFarlane, which is all of the DC and all of the movies, Dune, things like that you see today. And it's not going to change. And I think, we're better for it, right? We get more plastic and more innovation, more money, dollars dumped into it. The amount of money they make off that keeps people collecting things, and it gets newer items out there for the rest of us.
Yeah, I would say probably one of the things that I think, and this is just in general, right, for celebrity figures from nowadays, I would love to see a good line from the movie Tombstone with Kurt Russell and what's his name is Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. I mean, that'd be like a dream set of figures. Or Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas from A Ghost in the Darkness. That'd be pretty cool too.
For me, if I had to pick up something, it's cheesy, but like a really good, highly articulated Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Tolkien world.
I'm really surprised they haven't come back out with updated versions of Lord of the Rings figures. I'm really surprised.
I mean, it's just there's so much there to do, and it's.
I mean, the figures for the time that they were made, right, from Toy Biz or whatever it was, there,
right?
They were decent enough, but like a modern design 6-inch line would just freaking kill it, dude.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like it would, right? Like to me, I think it would do really. I mean, 1/12 scale stuff there. I think there'd be a lot of people that would really, really buy into it. So I don't have the screener slide up right now. What's next week? Next week is the 17th. Oh, I actually have next week's. This is an interesting one. And this actually, which the topic for next week, it's an interesting one because we were talking over the summer, coming up with topics, Ed, and we were like, oh, and I think this is your idea. Will be a cool one is like lunch boxes.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. The idea of lunch boxes, right? And a journey through, toy and pop culture designs for lunch boxes, right? Because big in the 90s and, the 80s, when I remember, when you went to elementary school, you had to bring those lunch boxes in. You had to have a kick-ass cool lunchbox. A lot of times it's tied to cartoons or pop culture.
Oh, yeah. I remember you go into the store, right? You have shelves of different types of lunch boxes, and you had to decide, were you going G.I. Joe or were you going, Pac-Man, right? Whatever it was. It was like,
Yeah, so we talked about that over the summer. We talked about it on our previous show how I picked that up as a pickup, which we talk about a little bit more. I mean, I'd argue, and I mean, some people have questioned if my money in the bank briefcase is considered a lunchbox. But the reason it's interesting is even more interesting, and it's just like perfectly timed, is that this message here that Trevor Williams over there, I think that is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 1/6 shooter.
Yep, 1/6 shooter.
1/6 shooter, amazing photographer, in the toy line and the toy figure community. Partners really closely with 4-H. I don't know if he works for them or if he just subs in and does some things for them.
He does other lines, but yeah, he works with them. He's contracted with them, I guess.
He does he just had those Cosmic Legion lunchboxes pop up that are going to be going on sale at Legion's Con this year. So what better time to talk about lunchboxes when it's at the forefront of a bunch of community members' minds because they're seeing what Trevor's doing, which I commend him. I saw that and I said, "Hey, Ed, did you see this?"
I hadn't seen it yet either. It's like, damn, that's awesome.
So we will be talking next week about cool school lunchboxes, a journey through toy and pop culture designs. So that's what we'll be focusing on next week. One thing, and Ed,
I still remember my very first metal lunchbox from kindergarten. It was the Planet of the Apes.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember I have to think back. I kind of remember it. I have to think back a little bit more. It was a blue one. I got to go back and look at some of my pictures from when I was a kid to see if I can figure out what it was because it was in the late 80s and it was a blue one. And I'm almost feeling like it was like 89-ish. So it might have been right around like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle time frame. It's kind of what comes to my mind.
Well, weren't yours mostly plastic by the time you got to school, started going to school?
Oh, yeah, I didn't have metal. They were plastic. Yeah. They didn't give kids of the 80s metal stuff to bring to school. Could you imagine how many people would have been hurt? Like, there's a reason the kids from the 80s are known as the badasses. We were the first ones to touch technology, and we were the last ones to touch something that could hurt someone. So, we're like the best and the worst of everything. So that'll be what we talk about next week. But one thing, and I'm going to put this out there, Ed, it's been bouncing around in my head. We got something big coming. At least I think it's big. We're working on something for the ToyLeet for the month of November.
Yep.
Big announcement coming on October 1st, which happens to be a ToyLeet episode. So in 3 weeks from now, we're attempting to have a very special guest for the show.
Big announcement.
Who's going to help talk about some stuff. We're going to talk to him or her, depending on who we're able to get. We have couple people in mind. We've sent messages to, and we have someone coming in, and they're going to talk about some things, and then we're going to talk about this big announcement for November. It's something that every one of you can take part in, and we hope you do. Some really cool ideas, and I think most people that follow us would find interesting to take part of it. And the coolest thing is, there's going to be some freaking prizes. There's going to be prizes for my staff.
Prizes and fun for all.
Prizes and fun for all. So what better time to win some free crap prior to the holidays that you can gift to someone or be a Grinch and keep that shit for yourself. But
wrap it for yourself and put it under your own tree.
That said, we got some stuff coming. We're working. Ideas are churning. Please tune in. Hopefully you enjoy the content. Like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Before I hit the end stream button, though, Ed, I just remembered what you got going on this week.
I love Briscoe. Yes, a Western line would be good. We all are in agreement. The Western line was definitely needed in 1/12 scale. What do I got going on this week? So let's see. What is today? Tuesday. Today's Tuesday.
Tuesday Takeover.
Yep, Tuesday Takeover. Thursday, I'll be on with Punk with Friends on Thursday on his show. I can't remember who he has because I never remember until it's Thursday night. And then Friday, I'll be moderating for Radnom on his late night craft and chill. Anybody who likes to build dioramas and just wants to come and hang out in a really, really chill chat group and get some building ideas, painting tips, 3D printing tricks, laser etching tricks, and just likes to have good conversation. That conversation gets it's about as widespread of topics as the clubhouse on a much chiller level. Briscoe is always there with us, and rest of the guys always pop in and out. And then Saturday, of course, we'll be at the clubhouse on Oz's channel from 10 o'clock, around 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And then Sunday, I'll be on with Hella Dope. And then Monday, I'm back on with
broadcast this week. Are they going to actually broadcast? Are they going to broadcast this week?
Yeah, Ted was really sick this week, so he was under the weather.
They left some of us very unsatisfied on Sunday, if I do say so myself. No, I'm kidding. Look forward to having them back. I'll definitely be joining in on that. I myself don't have a ton going on. I do have to get in touch with the counterpart over there at Hella Dope Toys, Mr. Aaron, and discuss with him a bit.
Yes, it'll be a ToyLeet Christmas, Oz.
It's actually... I'd say it's like better than ToyLeet Christmas because like you do something, you got a chance for something. You know
how much everybody loves the Burr months, right? This is like ToyLeet Burr.
ToyLeet Burr. Toy Burr. Now. Leet Burr. Now we'll figure it out.
Don't call it Toy Beater because that doesn't sound very good.
Toy Beater. Huh. Kind of
Toy
like
Bember.
that.
Toy Bember.
Well, we'll figure it out. Toy Bember.
Toy Bember.
Toy Bember. I like Toy Bember.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll call it. I know we've been bouncing around some ideas what we'll call it, but Toy Bember, I think that works.
I'm not saying the clubhouse isn't chill, Oz. I'm just saying it gets a little rowdy.
Absolutely.
But
so
that's why we love it.
I don't have anything going on, specifically between now and then. You can likely find me in some different chats, checking some different shows over the week. Definitely tune into our friends over at Unboxing Art. Check out folks like Hella Dope Toys on Sunday night. Definitely a Punk with Friends. And then guys like Radnom or Random Diorama. And then obviously the clubhouses, because honestly, like the clubhouse is where it all started for me. That's where I really connected with everybody and made the friends that I have in this brotherhood and whatnot. So go check those guys out. Give Oz and those guys some love. But other than that, Ed, I just tell people like, sub, share, help us drum up some additional viewers because come October 1st, I think there's going to be a lot to pay attention to. And I think folks are going to be very intrigued in how they can take part in Toyvember. Yeah, it's definitely Toyvember. That's what we're doing. Otherwise, I mean, look forward to talking to you guys next week and, sharing in our plastic passion. And as I like to close, stay wonderful.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.